Imagine this. Just picture it for a second. You land at a big international airport, maybe Tokyo's Haneda. It's, let's say the mid-1950s. You're tired, you've been traveling forever, and you're just ready to get that stamp in your passport.
Yeah, you walk up to the counter, hand over your passport, and it looks completely legit, right? Nicely printed, got the crests, watermarks, everything. And it's packed, absolutely stuffed, with real-looking entry and exit stamps.
Stamps from all over the world, Paris, Cairo, Rome, you name it. It's obvious this passport has gotten you around the globe before, probably multiple times, zero issue.
But then the immigration officer just stops. He looks at the passport, specifically the country name on the cover. Then he looks up at you, totally confused.
And he tells you that your country, the one you swear, has been around for like 1,000 years? Well, according to his maps, it just doesn't exist. Gone. Not there.
Can you imagine? You argue, obviously. Maybe you pull out other papers, perhaps even your own little map of the region. They bring out a big world atlas, and you stab your finger right at that spot between France and Spain.
Right where Andorra is on their map, and you're saying, no, that is Taured, my home. You're not trying to pull a fast one. You're genuinely baffled why your ancient nation isn't on their map.
It's an incredible setup for a story, isn't it? And it gets way more intense because the officials, they don't know what to make of you. Are you a spy? It's kind of weird refugee?
Yeah.
Or something else entirely.
So they decide to hold you. They put you up in a hotel room nearby under guard while they try to figure things out, verify who you are.
And the next morning?
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
The guards check the room. It's empty.
Completely empty. Windows are too high. Locked from the inside, maybe. No way out. Door guarded all night. But the man, gone.
And not just him. His passport, all those strange documents, vanished. Poof. Like they were never there.
Leading to the only conclusion that seems to fit, the one that catches everyone's imagination. He slipped. Slipped back to his own dimension, his own timeline where Taured is real.
A pretty wild story.
Welcome to Hoax Hunters.
So today, we're going to do what we do best. We're taking this incredible, honestly, very persistent urban legend, the man from Taured, and we're going to trace it. Follow the breadcrumbs back through actual records, verifiable stuff.
Yeah, our mission is to figure out where the tiny kernel of truth might end and where this amazing story of a dimension-hopping traveler really gets cooked up. Let's dive in.
Okay, first, we really need to appreciate why this legend works so well, why it's stuck around. It's built perfectly, giving just enough detail to sound plausible, but leaving huge gaps for, speculation.
Absolutely. It's a masterclass in mystery building. Let's pull apart those core details. The date, for instance. It's almost always cited as 1954, July 1954 sometime.
And that date isn't random. Placing it in 54 puts it squarely in that post-war era. But before, like global databases and instant communication, it makes it harder to immediately disprove. Creates a kind of fog around the source.
Good point. And the man himself. The descriptions paint a picture. Caucasian, middle-aged, sometimes bearded, fluent in multiple languages, including French and, crucially, Japanese.
Right. He's presented not as some kind of raving lunatic, but as a sophisticated, seasoned traveler, someone respectable, which makes the whole "my country doesn't exist" thing even more bizarre and compelling. He doesn't fit the profile of a simple liar.
And then there's the absolute centerpiece, the passport. The legend insists it wasn't just a crude fake. No, it was sophisticated. High-quality printing, the official crest of Taured.
And those stamps, that's the detail that really sells it, I think. The legend says it was crammed with authentic-looking custom stamps.
From all over the place, which implies what?
It implies he'd used it before, successfully. He'd traveled the world, Paris, London, wherever, without hindrance, as the stories often say. Multiple times even.
Which instantly changes the narrative, right? He's not just some guy with a fake ID showing up for the first time. He's potentially a victim of some cosmic glitch, suddenly finding himself in a world where his travels are impossible.
Exactly. It explains how he could even reach Japan if his country didn't exist here. The stamps provide that crucial backstory.
Okay, what about the location? His insistence on Taured being between France and Spain, where Andorra is.
That's another clever bit. He supposedly insisted Taured was ancient, over 1,000 years old. And when shown the map, pointing to Andorra, he was genuinely perplexed, maybe even angry.
Why Andorra, though? Why not, say, claim Taured, replace Switzerland or something bigger?
Because Andorra is perfect for this kind of legend. It's tiny, it's mountainous, it's relatively obscure for many people outside Europe. It's plausible that someone might not know exactly what's there.
So it provides a believable point of confusion. If he'd claimed Taured was where France is, it's just absurd. But replacing tiny Andorra, that feels intriguingly possible, like a small mapping error almost.
Precisely. It grounds the impossible claim in a plausible geographic ambiguity.
So you've got the date, 1954, the respectable traveler, the flawless-looking passport with all the stamps, the specific confusing location, Andorra, and then the big finale.
The Vanishing Act from a guarded room. That's the clincher.
It's the perfect recipe for an enduring mystery. And this story, in this form, really got cemented, didn't it? Through books about weird stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It started appearing in books on the paranormal, unexplained mysteries, that sort of thing. Key ones were Colin Wilson and John Grant's The Directory of Possibilities back in '81.
And later ones too, like Strange but True, Mysterious and Bizarre People in '99.
And these books, they didn't really investigate. They reported the legend, often citing earlier, perhaps equally unverified sources.
Yeah.
They locked in that 1954 date, the Taured name, the Andorra location, and crucially, the vanishing.
So by the time the internet came along, the story was already packaged and ready to go viral. Self-contained, dramatic, seemingly unexplainable, especially if you just assume the police records conveniently disappeared too.
It leaves you with this fantastic mystery and a really neat supernatural answer. Easy to digest, but, and here's the big but.
Here's where Hoax Hunters gets to work. Because the reality behind this legend, it's documented. And it's quite different.
Completely different. Time for that aha moment. It turns out the vanishing man from Taured seems almost certainly based on a real person. A documented case.
Not an interdimensional traveler.
Not quite. More like a known con man. His name was John Allen Kuchar Zegrus, sometimes listed as John Allen K. Zegrus.
Zegrus. Okay. And the date. Not 1954.
Nope. Way off.
Yeah.
Zegrus actually entered Japan via Haneda Airport, coming from Taipei, on October 24th, 1959.
1959. That's 5 years later. And did they detain him immediately because of his passport?
No, that's another key difference. He wasn't stopped at immigration for having a passport from a non-existent country. His actual arrest didn't happen until January 1960.
So he was in Japan for, what, 2 or 3 months before getting caught?
Exactly, moving around freely, which gave him time to do what he apparently came to do. But let's talk about that passport first. The country name.
Taured?
Not Taured. According to the actual Japanese records and news reports from the time, the name on his fake passport was Taured, T-U-A-R-I-D.
Taured.
Or sometimes spelled T-U-A-R-E-D. Taured, but definitely not Taured.
Taured or Taured. Okay, that sounds different. Less European somehow. And the location he claimed. Still Andorra.
Not even close. This completely demolishes the romantic Andorra part of the legend. Zigris's fake documents didn't point to Europe at all. They listed the capital of Taured as Tamanrasset.
Tamanrasset. That sounds
like a clumsy misspelling of Tamanrasset, a real city.
And Tamanrasset is?
Deep in southern Algeria, in the Sahara Desert, miles and miles from Andorra.
Wow. Okay, so the real story is set in North Africa, not a tiny European principality. That changes the whole context, doesn't it?
Massively. Think about 1959. Algeria was in the midst of a brutal war for independence from France. North Africa was politically charged. Claiming a connection there was very different from claiming a peaceful spot in the Pyrenees.
So Zigris wasn't claiming to be European. What was he claiming with this Taured identity?
His documents and his own statements later claimed he was a naturalized Ethiopian. And sometimes get this, an intelligence agent for Colonel Nasser.
Nasser of Egypt.
The very same. Or he'd call himself a mobile ambassador for the Negusi Habesi country.
Negusi Habesi. What's that?
It essentially means king of the Ethiopians. Ethiopia was still a kingdom then, under Haile Selassie. Nasser's Egypt was a major force in pan-Arab and anti-colonial movements.
So Zigris was wrapping himself in the flag of significant African political movements and figures of the time. This wasn't about parallel universes. It sounds like he was building a very specific, politically charged fake identity.
Precisely. He was likely trying to leverage that invented authority, maybe gain access, respect, or financial advantage in Asia, particularly in financial circles. The passport wasn't proof of another dimension. It was a tool for a geopolitical con.
Okay, so if he wasn't stopped at the border for the fake country, what did get him arrested in January 1960? Why were the authorities after him?
Simple, old-fashioned financial fraud. He was passing bad checks.
Less glamorous than interdimensional travel.
Much less. The records are pretty clear. He got busted for trying to cash phony checks at Tokyo branches of major international banks. Specifically, Chase Manhattan Bank. He tried for 200,000 yen, which was a decent chunk of change back then, plus about $140 in traveler's checks.
And any others?
Yeah. He also hit the Bank of Korea branch for another 100,000 yen using similar phony documents. He was running a classic check fraud scheme.
Using the fake Taured identity, the ambassador persona, as cover to make the checks seem legitimate. A confidence trick.
Exactly. It's a common criminal MO, just with a particularly elaborate fake nationality.
Right, this completely reframes the whole incident. It's not a mystery about where he came from, it's a police investigation into fraud.
And now for the part that completely kills the most famous Buddha legend, the Vanishing Act.
He didn't vanish, did he?
Not a chance. There's documented proof. We know what happened to him. John Allen Kuchar Zegrus went to trial.
A trial? There are records.
Yep. The Tokyo District Court. There were even Japanese radio broadcasts about it. In December 1961, he was officially sentenced.
Sentenced for what? And for how long?
He got 1 year's imprisonment. The charges were illegal entry because of the fake passport and fraud for passing those bad checks.
1 year in prison. So the story ends not with a mysterious poof, but with a judge's gavel on a jail cell.
Pretty much. And after he served his time, no dimensional rift opened up.
Let me guess. Deportation.
You got it. Standard procedure. He was deported to Hong Kong after finishing his sentence. The paper trail exists. It's mundane, but it's verifiable.
So the entire vanishing element, the core of the paranormal interpretation, is just fabricated.
Completely fabricated, it seems. We have court records, sentencing, deportation. He didn't disappear. He went through the legal system.
Which leads us to the really fascinating question then. How does that story, conman Zigris, arrested 1960, fake Algerian passport, jailed for check fraud, deported 1961, morph into the man from Taured, arriving 1954, and Dora confusion, vanishes overnight?
Now we get into the mutation engine. The game of telephone played across decades and through different media. It seems to happen in clear stages.
Like whispers down the lane, but with books and newspapers.
Pretty much. Step 1 is the real event. Zigris, 1959, not 1960, Taured, Algeria, check fraud, arrest, trial. Complex, a bit messy, maybe not that exciting for a general audience.
Right, the raw facts. Then what?
Step 2. It gets mentioned in an official but non-sensational context. In 1960, a British MP, Robert Matthew, actually brought up the case in the UK's House of Commons.
Really?
During a debate about passport security and controls, he mentioned the guy with the fake passport from Taured. So the strange country name enters the official record linked to fraud, but establishing it as a known, albeit fake, entity.
Okay, so it's noted but correctly identified as a fake.
Yes. Then comes step 3. The story gets picked up by the press, and the name starts to shift. Just a few weeks after the MP's mention, a Canadian newspaper, The Province, ran a story.
What did they say?
They reported on Zigris, mentioned his claim about being Nasser's agent, and correctly placed the passport's origin in Tamanrasset. But they called the country Taured, T-U-A-R-E-D.
The first mutation of the name. Taured becomes Taured.
Exactly. And crucially, the newspaper article still clearly stated Zigris invented the country. No hint of parallel dimensions yet. But that slight spelling change, Taured, maybe sounds a bit more European, a bit less specifically North African than Taured. It makes the name more ambiguous, easier to detach from its real origin later.
Okay, so the name shifted slightly. What's next? How does the paranormal angle creep in?
Step 4. The paranormal leap. This is where things really start to change. Fast forward to 1974. A French author named Jacques Bergier, who wrote a lot about ancient astronauts, paranormal stuff, Forteana. He includes this story in a book.
Bergier. Okay, what does he do with it?
He uses the Taured spelling, but he introduces 2 massive changes. First, he pushes the date back, way back to 1954.
Why 1954? We know it was 59.
Well, writers like Bergier often curated stories to fit themes or timelines. Maybe 1954 fit better with other strange events he was collecting for that post-war period. Pushing it back also makes it harder to check against recent records, adds that layer of historical mist.
Makes sense for building a mystery. What was the second big change he made?
He introduces the idea of the man being detained in a hotel. But interestingly, in Bergier's 1974 version, the man doesn't vanish.
No vanishing. Then what happens?
Bergier's version says the man from Taured was simply put into a Japanese psychiatric hospital, institutionalized.
That's fascinating. So the first author to really run with it as a paranormal or unexplained event didn't even include the Vanishing Act. He had a more mundane, if still mysterious, ending locked up as mentally unsound.
Right, which honestly is a plausible outcome for someone presenting such bizarre claims back then, even if he was a conman. So the Vanishing Act comes even later.
So when does the final version emerge? The one everyone knows, with Taured, Andorra, 1954, and The Vanishing.
That seems to be step 5, the final Polish. The book we mentioned earlier, Wilson and Grant's The Directory of Possibilities from 1981, is one of the key texts that uses the final spelling. Taured. T-A-U-R-E-D.
Taured. The name we recognize.
Yes, that spelling sticks. Then, over the next couple of decades, especially as the story hit the early internet and forums post, say, 2000, maybe even later around 2013, the narrative gets embellished by countless retellings.
And that's likely where the last 2 pieces get firmly bolted on.
Seems very likely. That's when the location probably shifts definitively from Algeria, Sahara, to the more digestible, less political location of Andorra. And crucially, the psychiatric hospital ending is replaced by the much more dramatic, unexplainable, complete Vanishing Act.
So it's a gradual process. Name changes slightly. Taured to Taured to Taured. Date gets pushed back, 59 to 54. Geography gets shifted, Algeria to Andorra. Ending gets sensationalized. Jail deportation to psychiatric hospital to Vanishing.
Exactly. Each step takes it further from the messy, documented reality of John Zigris, the Czech fraudster.
And closer to a perfect, stooky, unsolvable riddle.
And why does this happen? Why do we prefer the Vanishing Dimension Jumper story? There's a psychological element here. It taps into our preference for narrative coherence.
Meaning, we like stories that make sense, that have a clear beginning, middle, and a satisfying end, even if the sense is supernatural.
Pretty much. Compare the 2 stories. Option A. Conman John Zigris faked a passport from Taured linked to Algeria, got caught passing bad checks in Tokyo in 1960, went to trial, served a year, got deported to Hong Kong. It's factual, but complicated. Lots of details, legal stuff, geopolitics.
Kind of anticlimactic, too.
Right. Option B. Mysterious man arrives from Taured in 1954, baffles officials by pointing to Andorra, is detained, and vanishes overnight from a locked room. It's clean, it's mysterious, it has a stunning climax.
Well, the brain just latches onto option B, doesn't it? It's a better story.
It's a much simpler, more compelling narrative arc. The messy details of the real case, of the trial, the exact amount of yen, the deportation, they create cognitive friction. The Vanishing resolves everything instantly, albeit supernaturally. It's almost like apophenia in action, seeing a grand, meaningful pattern of dimension travel in confusing data, a weird passport.
And the geography shift makes sense psychologically too, right? Andorra feels safer, more mystery story-like than the politically charged reality of 1959 Algeria and Nasser.
Absolutely. It Europeanizes the mystery, makes it more accessible and less tangled in real-world conflicts that might make Western audiences uncomfortable or just confused. The story gets sanitized for easier consumption.
So the demand for a good mystery overrides the actual facts. People want to believe the Vanishing story, even though the evidence points to Zigris.
It seems that way. The sheer amount of online discussion, the fan theories about how he vanished, government cover-ups, it shows a huge appetite for the extraordinary explanation, even if it means ignoring documented history.
This whole case really underscores the danger of relying on secondary sources, doesn't it? Especially those compendium of weird tales type books or websites.
Definitely. Think about it. Every verifiable piece of primary evidence, the MP's mention of Taured, the Japanese court records, the newspaper reports on Zigris' trial and sentence, the deportation, all got steamrolled by one dramatic, unverified detail added later. The Vanishing.
It's like the sensational detail has more gravity than all the facts combined.
And the Zigris story is basically a perfect historical blueprint for how hoaxes spread online today, isn't it? Think about things like the Mandela effect.
Yeah, the idea that shared false memories are proof of timeline shifts or parallel universes.
It follows the same pattern. A real event or detail gets slightly twisted, or a confusing memory takes hold, and then the more extraordinary explanation, alternate dimensions, is way more appealing and shareable than the mundane one. Memory is fallible, information gets distorted.
That initial half-truth Zigris was real. He did have a weird passport. He was arrested in Tokyo, gives the legend a hook in reality. But then the embellishment, the Vanishing Jumper, is just stickier, more viral.
And who's going to dig up 60-year-old Japanese court records to fact-check a cool internet story? The mundane verification takes effort. The sensational story spreads effortlessly.
So the only real defenses: the boring facts, the actual name, the real date, the specific crime, the documented outcome.
It sounds dull, but yes. Zigris' identity, 1959, not 54. Czech fraud, not dimensional confusion. Algeria, not Andorra. Jail and deportation, not vanishing. Those specific, verifiable details are the only things that cut through the fiction.
It really shows that the most effective deception isn't always pure invention. It's often about hijacking a small piece of truth.
Like Zigris' genuinely bizarre and well-made fake passport.
And then slapping on an unforgettable dramatic flourish, like the vanishing act, to make it immortal.
You can argue that by perpetuating the Taured legend, we're almost complicit in a second kind of fraud ourselves. Zigris committed financial fraud. We commit maybe a kind of psychological fraud on ourselves because we prefer the mystery over the less exciting truth.
That's a heavy thought. We choose the better story over the real story.
It often seems that way. The Zigris case is a great reminder. Always be most skeptical, the most dramatic, neatest part of any mystery story. Chances are that's the bit that got added later because the truth was just too ordinary.
The technology changes, books, forums, social media, but the basic mechanism of the hoax, and maybe our own willingness to believe, stays pretty constant.
The blueprint for deception and the mental shortcuts that make us vulnerable to it, they really don't change much.
So thinking about this whole journey from Zigris to Taured, we want to ask you, what part of the original Taured legend, the vanishing, the date, the Andorra connection, grabbed you the most when you first heard it? And now, knowing the likely true story of John Zigris, the conman, does it change how you look at other online mysteries or strange tales? Let us know what you think.